I'm in this so-called relationship with this guy that I'm seeing every so often. Convinced going to be my husband.
Ladies, how many of us try to convince ourselves the man is the one when God is showing all the red flags, all the signs, but you're calling them orange? God was even good enough to send her husband to tell her what's good with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. Looking back, he was. I called those flags every color but red.
Welcome back. Just sitting down with women, hearing their testimonies, their stories of what they had to walk through. In the beginning stages of marriage, we are discussing things no one tells you about marriage. And I have Dr. Lindi in the building, okay? Is it 20 on the dot. Y'all just had a vow renewal in the Dominican Republic. How was that? Fun. We talking about goals, longevity. You guys have walked through different things. Alton was in the military.
Yes, Army.
How long in your marriage?
When we were married, he was already in the military.
Okay.
Shortly after he got deployed that same year. It was like whirlwind, had flipped upside down. Not what you ideally picture, but we're here now.
Did you get married early 20s or late 20s?
No, we were right at our mid.
25-ish?
24, 25.
Okay, so you had some experience of independence, but probably not too much. Yeah, I got married at 28, and I feel like there's just so much independence that I've had to navigate through this year.
For me, I went straight from my mom's house to getting married.
Oh, you did it the biblical way. You didn't have the apartment experience.
I went to college. My mom always told us, me and my sisters and I, that, you know, for as long as you guys are getting your education, you can stay here. So I went for my bachelor's. I did my associates, went for my bachelor's. I went for my master's, and my mom was like, yeah, you're fine. So I graduated with my master's one day. 2 days later, got married.
Wow. So you got your doctorate within marriage. How far did you pursue doctorate?
Initially, when I started medical school, it was early in our marriage before the bomb hit, him getting injured. Yeah, so that was the journey. I was like, Lord, what are you doing? Yeah, life doesn't make God's word any less true. I had to do some rerouting.
Yeah, but let's jump into it. I know a huge part of the testimony is for better or worse. So that is a huge place where God parked you early on in your marriage.
Oh my goodness.
Share with us how you guys met and leading up to that revelation or season.
We've known each other since middle school. We gone to middle school together, high school together, college. He went to New York. I was in Maryland. I was at an HBCU. He was at West Point. I called it prison, military academy. Like, it's crucial there. Salute to anyone that makes it through a different level of discipline. They've made some of our greatest leaders, so a good place to be. We've known each other since then. I met him shortly after. I'm not originally from here.
When did you move here?
I'm from Zambia. I moved here when I was 10. I'm the oldest, 3 sisters, no brothers. We love our in-law brothers. Shortly after moving here, obviously like next year or so, go to middle school. You know, we met and stayed friends. We have a mutual friend, David. Shout out to you from a young age. He would say, just give me some time, Lindi. Let me get him right. I promise you. He and I always had love for each other from day one. He's calm, cool, collected. We meshed. I've always loved him. He'll tell you the same, but we were always friends. I always looked at him as a brother. If I needed a safe place, he was that person. So it was always that type of relationship. I never looked at it as anything but.
Wow.
So anytime David would make jokes, our mutual friend, I'd be like, so funny.
Even what prophetic
I
was.
didn't tell him that. Yes, sir. Because we didn't. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. Well, whoever he was dating, if I would hear about it, there was no jealousy. Maybe it should be me. No, it was never like for him. Our history goes back. You would think knowing someone that long, you know everything, but no.
How many siblings does he have?
He has 10.
So they're
siblings.
11 in total.
4 of us girls on my side. Definitely, you know, just that all across the board, the dynamic has just been different, but it's good though, you know.
Okay.
Didn't want carbon copy, thank God.
Amen.
Better.
We don't want that.
Or even in high school, prom, making jokes. He went with someone, I went with somebody else. We still found each other, taking pictures, laughing. He's talking about my red lipstick.
Did he have an inkling?
His joke to this day is someone was going to get that spot baby. I'm like, they could have been trying. I mean, they had it.
I joke with my husband because we met on a dating app.
Yeah.
I'm like, if we met in person, I don't think you could have bagged me. I threw you an alley. The way you were able to get me is because God gave you an assist. When we first started dating, because my husband is very reserved, I can't imagine you trying to pick up a girl. Can you show me how? So I pretended to be like this girl working out, and he like tried to come and holler at me, and I just bust out laughing. I was like, yeah, I would have done you, but God really gave the man an assist.
God always knew he's
Yeah.
both believers for background purposes.
Amen.
But he was raised in a two-parent household, strong believers. My parents were married for 18 years before they divorced, but stayed best friends. Even with that, they taught us a lot as far as marriage goes. So we both had good blueprints,
Okay.
of what to do, what not to do. And, at the end of the day, it's about your choices.
Yeah.
I went to HBCU Morgan. He was at West Point, but, our mutual friend, we kept in touch that way. When he'd be home for breaks, I would see him and we started talking. The person I was dating at that time, I still remember this conversation. I think I have the letter. I remember telling all things. We've always been friends. I'm telling him about this guy and he's like, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. He's like, is this the guy? Did God tell you this is your husband?
Oh.
Our conversations were like that. Yes, we were in high school. We still talked about God a lot.
Yeah. He comes from a two-parent house.
Yeah, right. True. I didn't think of it that way. He asked me, and I didn't hesitate. I made a face. I was like, no, God hasn't. He's like, why are you with him? And I was
Not him walking heavy at 17.
oh, yeah, he always did. He was the go-to person for advice. I was like, well, I love him. That's who I want to marry. I have my mind made up. He's like, okay. I just thought I'd ask. Wanted to make sure where this is headed. I had just finished telling him how badly this person was treating me.
Oh, so we make excuses.
I knew I wanted to get married, so I was like, this is going to be the one. Well, I was in love with him at the time, but you're young. You're like, this is the one for me. End of story, end of day. That's where we were at with that. He was supportive, good friend. In all the talking, I think he got injured playing football. He had some shoulder surgery. So me being the friend that I am, I was calling him. Our fathers both ended up passing away within the course of our knowing each other.
Wow.
I remember just hearing that emptiness in his voice. He did that for me when my father passed. I remember him being in the hospital when I called. He was so happy, so giddy. I'm like, so working overtime. He's like, no, I'm just happy to hear from you. He started talking almost every day. My goal was to encourage him. I'm in this so-called relationship with this guy that I'm seeing every so often. Convinced it's going to be my husband.
Ladies, how many of us try to convince ourselves the man is the one when God is showing all the red flags, all the signs, but you're calling them orange? God was even good enough to send her husband to tell her, what's good with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. Looking back, he was. I called those flags every color but red. Yeah, clearly. My sisters were like, so this guy. And I'm like, no, it's not that type of party. My sisters are like, oh, okay. One time he came over, him and our mutual friend David, they came over. They come in the house and my mom is at the top of the steps. They come in and she's like, OMG. I was like, what? She's like, talk to you right now. I go talk to my mother and she's like, I told you. So before this, my mama had a dream and she dreamt, she's like, she told me I saw your husband. I was like, well, yeah, of course you did. The guy that on and off, you don't count the breaks. Right. And she's like, no, she's like, the Lord showed me your husband. And I was like, what does he look like? She's like, I promise when I see him, I will know because the Lord showed me his side profile and enough of his front almost. He didn't let me see him face to face. I saw enough of him that I will know him when I see him. She told me this then. When they come in, different day, pulls me to the side. She's like, I told you I would know. She's like, I just saw him. And I'm looking like, jeez. Because my friends, I've told them to go in the basement, have a seat. I'll be with you in a minute. Mom used to talk to me. She's like, that was him. I just saw him. I'm like, I know you are not talking about Dave. What? Mama, this is not funny.
Jump into David. Wait, you didn't even think about Alden. You just said, no,
I sure didn't.
That was like there was a possibility in the back of your brain that considered it.
Probably. Looking back, probably. But at that time, you couldn't have convinced me otherwise. So my mom's like, no, not him. She says my husband's name. And I was like, please, come on. I'm never disrespectful to my mother. But on that one, I had to walk. I was like, I have to go now, ma'am.
Moms just be knowing.
She did. She said it in there. She's like, I always knew, and I was just going to wait. I asked her, what would you have done if I didn't, if it never went that way? She's like, I knew it was, so I was just waiting for you to come around. She's like, it's nothing I needed to pray fast or share.
And God showed me, and God is not a man that should lie. Let everybody else be a liar.
Right, and hadn't even told my sisters, but even they were like, guys sure are talking a lot. I wasn't. I'm on this phone. I'm like, well, yeah, he needs encouragement.
The Lord is orchestrating your steps.
I remember calling him for advice. He knows my dirt, my goods, vice versa. I posed the question to him, and I'm like, I don't know. What do you think about this guy? And he's like, do you really want me to tell you?
Oh.
And he proceeds to write, because at the time it was emails.
Okay.
He sends me this email, and he's just like, go with God, go with what God is telling you. I'm like, that is not helping.
Right. Of all the things, go with God. Well, I'm thinking God is telling me to stay.
Exactly. That's my comeback. He's like, no, go with God, because God is telling you. He's like, I love you regardless. I'm here for you. Very honest gentleman. He never crossed those lines, even if those thoughts were entering his mind. He was just like, make your decision, not based on what he wants or anybody else. He's like, you take the time, hear what God is telling you, ask the question, be prepared for the answer, act on that.
I was annoyed, and people put the ball in your court. Now trying to make me use brain cells to tell me what to do.
The point of reaching out is to get the answer. If it doesn't work out, I can point to you.
His fault, God.
And so that's what ended up happening with that. I ended up pushing a pause on that relationship. And I was like, okay, Lord, you're going to have to show me. I'm just going to leave them alone, leave these dudes alone. It's not like I have a history of dating. Right. It's technically like the first official real life. In middle school, you date somebody for 5 minutes and that's your boyfriend. Those didn't count.
No, they
So this was the first official.
Not until you get to college.
Right. I gave my heart everything. Like I said, what I knew loved at that moment, I feel like I gave it prematurely, because that's not who I said it would be. Yeah. Why do you have to work out those issues out?
Unnecessary soul ties. Sexual or not, I was a virgin going into marriage, but even with my first relationship, my senior year of college, I still had to do soul tie work, because I convinced myself this is who God had for me. Gosh, nah, it's just a vehicle to get you closer to me. Now I look back and I'm like, thank you, Jesus. No shade to the guy I dated. Great guy, loves the Lord, went on to marry a phenomenal woman who loves the Lord. My husband was handpicked, even though we have our ups and downs. I don't think there's another person for me. Jean is my person.
Yeah, your person is your person.
God knew.
Makes all the people
in middle school.
It's funny. We look back at pictures like, what were we? So left the other kid alone.
Okay.
Building this friendship. The beauty of it was, it's not cliche. We were friends already first. People are like, oh, why do you trying to make it sound all fairy tale? No, it was our life. We were already friends, dating other people. When unattached, we were just growing our friendship over time. A year or so of just conversation. I don't even know if I think at first we weren't even really calling it dating, because we didn't even know what was happening. I'm a homie, And he's like, well, I'm from Zambia. If someone's trying to court you, to marry you, the man has to meet the parents as the father.
Wait, so you never had a formal dating conversation?
Not initially, no. We would just talk so much. Eventually, we had to get out of denial.
I know what I
saw. My sisters are like, we already know. To come out of denial, really, that's what it was. Because I knew how I had been all along. Like, y'all, I was loud with that brothership.
Brother in Christ, okay?
So now to circle back and be like,
I like him.
So it organically, I've been talking, and he's asking questions like, what would a man do? And I'm answering too, like, they have to go see the parent, giving information. I'm being a good friend.
Naive.
But that's what I believe. So you asked me about there, it's 24, 25. We still had a lot of growing up to do. Yeah. Life experience was very much needed. Just the level of naiveness that we were approaching life with. We were sheltered to a certain extent. Yeah. By God's grace, it did serve us good, but it made us learn things on our own. God's hand was all over.
Your middle school friend knew that was your man.
Right.
Great. That's wild.
We'll always give him his props. So from there is how it started. I tell him this information. He's like, okay. Unbeknownst to me, he's taking notes of what he will later do. And he kept that down till he asked me, because we've been friends for so long. For us, these conversations weren't odd. He'd be like, if someone proposed to you, how would they do it? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, what would your ideal proposal be?
I have been connecting the dots. If a man wants to, he will. He's going to pursue and marry. He's not going to waste your time.
I told him I just wanted my family. I want my family there.
Okay.
That's my only requirement, and these tidbits would come out just in regular conversation. It wasn't like, oh, we're flirting. No.
Right.
I was talking about life. He was taking notes. When I had detached from said person, I had a list of what I wanted that God knew. I didn't know if he had a similar list that God as far as what he would want in a spouse or partner. The Lord willed it. We had these lists. I don't even know if we shared them. If we all had a list. He met all the criteria. I didn't know I met all the criteria on his, but we didn't care because that's not what we were checking for.
God said it.
Living life. My mom asked me one day, when are you going to stop playing?
Oh.
Yeah,
Not only do you get a dream story, then you're just like, girl, what are you doing?
Right, exactly. I remember going up there for a visit. Now he's like, I'm not about the games. Whoever is coming into my life, we're not doing nothing. I'm seeking God more than anything. He got to direct order my step. We're at that age, crossing into adulthood, this, that, that. So that was his mindset. And he let me know these rules or parameters. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool for whoever he is. I had gone up there for one of his balls.
Okay.
I go up there and his friends, even at the time, are like, oh, okay, Lindi.
Right.
Okay, Lindi, what's it?
Cool. Okay. God was trying to let you know, and you're just like,
Look, that man is too big. He's occupied. Just got fit just organically. I remember us running into somewhere at a grocery store. Someone he went to school with. He's like, oh, who's this? And we both just stood there like deer in headlights, like, oh, I mean, we haven't really defined, we know it's not what it was because we are more than friends. We have strict enough boundaries. You know what I mean? It was just that place. I'm looking at him like, what are we? And he's looking at me like, I don't know. He says, this is my girlfriend. I remember just standing there in the store, just looking. And so the guy, he's like, oh my gosh, it's so good to meet you. Shaking my hand, giving me hugs. He was so happy. The guy walks away and I start making jokes. So you had no words for him initially. He's like, you're right. Let me do this the right way. And he asked me, you'll be my girl. I was like, for real?
this is real life.
That's how we started. He did come to Zambia with me. Okay. Met my family. My grandfather was alive at the time. So he asked him, I thought he just wanted to see where I was from. Half the time when I would tell my friends, they never believed it was from there anyway. Where's your accent? Get me mad enough. He asked my grandfather for my hand in marriage when I wasn't around. Even then, I wasn't thinking that's what he was doing. He wants to know my background, make sure this is legit. From Zambia, it's a real country. My sisters knew. They saw the ring before we made a group trip together. When we came back early, he had military stuff. They stayed behind, but knew what was coming. All of my family went to his house. All of his family was there, chewing on chicken. I remember this because that chicken bone was good. You hear me? I had chicken wing in my mouth, and I go to turn around and he's standing next to me talking, and I'm hungry. I had this one chicken. I tried to gather and put it in my mouth. He's saying all these things. I'm not lying. I was hungry. I finished the chicken bone. I put it down, and he's at the end of his sentence. He says my full name and the one sentence, and I'm still like, wait, what are you doing? My little sister tried. Before we went to his house, she was like, you're going like that? You don't want to change into something else? My hair was braided, but it wasn't styled. I don't even think I had makeup on, maybe lip gloss. Lindi, you're right. So that. Yeah. And you're like, I'm good. But I'm like, it's awesome. Just, hey, be attentive. Something I still work on. God is throwing you clues, and you're still in la la land. Eating the chicken wing. And I had an attitude. Stop talking. We need to eat. Only for him to get on his knees, and I'm looking at him sweating. Wait a minute. He asked me to marry him. My aunt was like, you never answered. You didn't say yes. He needs an official yes. I just stuck my hand out between crying and trying not to choke on the throat because you were going eat that chicken. And that's how he proposed. We got married, and shortly after, he had to deploy to Operation Iraqi Freedom. As a newlywed, you have these images of what marriage should be. When he left, it was like having the rug pulled out from under me. I just left my mother's home to come and build our home, and now you're gone.
You're not here.
And it wasn't anything he could control, obviously. I wasn't prepared for this. People say, you knew he was in the Army. Yeah, I know.
But not deployment so early. How long did it take y'all to get married?
Yes. Getting married didn't take long because that proposal was in January. We got married in May.
When did he get deployed?
He left in June. Oh, it was rough. And then one thing he did say to me in the process of it all, he was just like, I He made it clear that until this day he stands by it. He's like, I'm marrying you. My intent was always to marry you. I made this known when we crossed over into relationship more than just friendship, that, the person I'm going to be with, which I already knew it was you. I'm not about games. We're going to get married. It's not about the military and this, that, and the other. Because, people will throw shade. Oh, well, they're just doing it because he's getting ready to deploy.
He didn't know.
We would have probably done it in September because the weather was nice. But we ended up taking a break. People don't know this, that we took a break one from another, and he was just like, God told me to pause, and I was like, okay, but I respected him too much to think it was shady. Kept my distance. We went to our parents, and they were supportive. They were like, listen, we're not going to tell you what to do, but whatever you decide, we love you, and we're going to support you regardless. It's not about out there. It's you guys that are going to have to walk this out. So you pray. We'll support you in prayer. What you hear the Lord say, do, that's what you do.
Yeah.
If he says no, then no. If he says yes, then that's what you do. That's how we decided. It's interesting hearing people's takes and stories now that confess. They're like, yeah, girl, I thought I thought you was pregnant. Or I thought y'all was just doing it because he was,
So you took a break for marriage, or not while you were married?
No, not while we were married. This is while we were
Unofficially
official. And he was just like, I want you to hear for yourself. And I was like, yeah, we're not about forcing matters. Forever is too long for forced. You should willingly enter good, bad, and in between by choice. So yeah, that's how we ended up walking down the aisle. I had already ordered my dress and it wasn't going to come. But that morning they called me and said, your dress is here. I was so tiny then the thing fit. There was no fitting. I slipped right into it. I didn't have to get fitted for my dress. He wore his dress blues. It was perfect. Our pastor married us, not in the big sanctuary. It was family, very close friends. Some drove from North Carolina to Maryland. They wanted to support us. We got married in the smaller sanctuary. Oh. That's how we started. When he had to deploy, thoughts enter that you never thought would be an issue for you to have. I was very resolute, you know what I'm saying? I was an outgoing person, independent, forward thinker, rarely was I influenced by anyone. When you're yoked to someone else, two people being one, the things it takes you into, the realms, the roads, it's different than when you're by yourself, especially if you honor God. We surrendered ourselves and what we were going to do together to him. But make sure target is not to scare you. Yeah. But God's got your back. When he left this gaping hole I didn't think would affect me the way it did. If you're not really spiritual, even if you are, you're like, yeah, that's just being dramatic. No, but my testimony, what it felt like, I didn't plan for this. I figured if you got deployed, we've had some time, we've built whatever. Yeah. And you can say, well, you guys dated, you guys were friends. It was still different.
Because now you're within covenant.
Yeah.
So how many times did he get deployed within marriage?
Twice, overseas twice. He did an Operation Iraqi Freedom, thank God. He didn't get injured. Crazy stories of God stopping bombs in front of him. He went to Afghanistan. His second tour is where he was hurt.
How long were y'all married at that point?
At that point, we had only been married 3 years because we got married in 2004.
How long was the first deployment?
1 year, 6 months. You come home, have a break, go back, fill the rest of the time with, and come home. They started MIT teams, smaller groups going out there to train people on how to run their systems. So he was a leader. Yeah. And there was a weight with it. When he went on that tour, at that time, I just had our firstborn. Okay. Our firstborn son. He was little, 3-4 months. He had to leave again. Circumstances be that for better or for worse, becomes real. With those moments pop up. You're like, what?
Yeah, because those moments are out of your control.
Yeah, out of mine. And that's where it really matters. God's in it. I tell my friends, unbelievers, if you're thinking about marriage, you got to go to the one that made it, the one that created it. You need the blueprint. How is this thing supposed to work? Yeah. When an engineer is designing a car or a tool or anything, they put an instruction manual together. Yeah. So you get the most efficient operation of the thing. So even with marriage, I encourage my friends, believers or not, go consult the one who put it together. Yes. So you have a blueprint or something, to follow of what it should look like. I don't know. They still to this day don't have quite the words to describe what it felt like. The second tour of duty is when he got injured, like I said. And, I'm sleeping. My son is in the crib. He's in the room with me. My mother-in-law's, I call her mother-in-love. I remember being asleep. The phone rang and I already knew. I can't tell you how I knew, but I just knew. I pick up the phone and I'm like, what happened? I don't even think I said hello because he came on and his voice was just too peaceful, y'all. It was too calm. It was too quiet. The room became cold. Yeah. He's all the way over there in Afghanistan. I'm in America. And I was just like, oh, no. My son's sleeping. I'll look over. I'm like, no. what happened? And he's like, he's trying to calm me down.
He's injured and trying to calm you. He's like,
For his life. And
They're
here I
right.
am still trying to regulate. And so finally he's like, okay. And I was like, I know something happened. Don't lie. Coming to find out, he had been shot with morphine. He's telling me, I've been hurt. You're not imagining things. He proceeds to tell me the Jeep Humvee, whatever the name of it now, I forget, far removed from the military. When they went to drive forward, literally just pressure plate, bomb, mortar, whatever was under them. And all the driver did was take his foot off the brake to go put it on the gas, and it blasted. He was sitting in the front, the driver, and this other soldiers were in the back. So it blew up from underneath them. The whole front of the vehicle came back on his leg. My bones sticking out. I'm bleeding. But I think he was trying to reassure me. He's like, they did give me my weapon. I was like, what, they gave you? He was like, I told them they have to listen to me. I'm leading them. I asked them to give me my weapon. And I was like, wait, so if you're telling them to give you wait, the enemy's there. He's like, we could see them coming down. We gotta, protect ourselves and stuff. They did call in, for backup and stuff. And true to form, like you see on the movies, the medvac came in. Mad respect to the military for being on point and on call and on time.
yeah.
That as much as they could see the enemy coming, and he, telling his men, let's get our armor together, and this is how we're gonna go out. This is how we go out. But thinking enough to call me, because it would have taken time before Red Cross or anybody could get the information to him.
He was still active. Like he was
Yeah,
in enemy territory.
Yeah, he was on the scene still. When we asked one of his soldiers to give him the phone, and he was like, I have to call my wife because I don't know if they're going to get the information to her on time so she knows, and just in case.
You don't think about medical. I have a cousin who's a nurse in the military, but you don't think about they're in enemy's territory too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. It was very surreal. I was reassured him. I think I prayed. He's like, they're taking me out. I'm going to go to Germany, go back to base. From there, Germany. From Germany, I'll come back to Walter Reed in Bethesda/Washington, D.C. area. Yeah. For treatment. Started our recovery process for him. They got him to Walter Reed, and I got to see him on my birthday. Like, this was a big thing for him.
Wow.
I was just like, even in that, still being that considerate, a lot of God winks throughout our journey that I'm thankful for.
Now, you're a doctor in physical therapy.
Yes.
So were you able to be a part of the rehab?
Not even at that time, and that's what motivated me to go to school.
That's right. You got your doctorate later.
Because I saw they did not play with him. The physical therapist, like the next day, I'm coming in and he has metal around his leg. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Once they got it off, they were like, we need you to stand up. I'd appreciated. They didn't relent. He's tough, but they were like, no, we're going to get you to move. We need blood flow. It was just more dramatic with his leg. They were going to take his leg and amputate. And he had shared with me before that the Lord told him the enemy was going to try to take his life. He's like, but I'm not going to let him. I'm still a praying man. He didn't stop doing that after we got married. And he was like, the Lord came back and was just like, he's going to try to take your limb. He's telling me all this in prayer. I'm praying, fasting. As much as I'm a foodie, I put food down because I knew he was coming home alive. You don't know the capacity to love or be selfless until you're with the person God has for you. I encourage everybody, pray first. While being married may seem like a cool thing to do with whoever, I go through all the heartache and, possible disappointment or be stuck in it.
Yeah.
And that's not who it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, I'm grateful because even in the recovery process, watching him pour pills down the toilet, I know God to be a healer. The mindset that I have to take on too as a supportive spouse, partner, road dog, you become all things, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Outside of being God, who came to do this life together. When I reflect, I share with people. It's a blessing to have someone to go through those things with. Can you imagine being by yourself and having to make decisions with the leg? The doctor told them, they were like, we can't stop the leaking. The numbers are not what we want, so we're going to have to amputate. This is like a Friday. And I'm with him hearing all this, another piece I never planned for. Now I'm having to think to myself, okay, Lord.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Do I love him any less because he may not have a leg? What would that look like for our children? I'd already made up my mind. This is my man, my dude. Nevertheless, I'm still here. I was also like, God, I know you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went home that weekend. He told the doctor, give my family and I the weekend. I'll be back Monday. If nothing has changed, do what you need to do. Had everybody on the prayer call, praying, standing guard. Came back Monday, no leakage, amputation canceled. It's a blessing when, God loves us enough that he has someone out there for us. Should we choose? It is a choice. I don't down anyone that hasn't chosen this journey. You adopt a certain mindset. Submission for me is not a trigger word. Submission, when I hear that, I just hear trust.
Trust.
A different level of trust than you've ever encountered. I trust him to lead. He trusts me to lead. But it's not a
dictatorship.
Yeah. These things we put on it. Like, stop it, y'all. God is not even that tight. He didn't create all these things for us to be punished.
Right.
I came so you may have life.
And life
You
more.
know.
How long was the recovery process?
Oh my goodness. At the time, I didn't know enough about PTSD to know that's what we were walking through.
So it wasn't just physical.
The physical part, honestly, he may not agree, was the easier part. It was different seeing him going through when he decided to leave the medicine alone. The shakes, withdrawal. We're standing outside in dead heat. But he's like, babe, I need more blankets, shivering, choosing to stand by him and not leave him when he's down.
Yeah, these were the medicine they gave for pain management?
Yeah, pain management and all that. He was saying, for him, after praying about it, he was like, Lord, I feel like the medicine is taking my mind. And when my mind is taken, I can't be where I want to be with you, where I'm used to being. My husband till this day is a worshiper. So that's always been important. This was getting in the way of that. We're talking about hallucinations, things like that. He was like, no, like I said, we're walking PTSD out, and we didn't even fully understand at the time. TBI, traumatic brain injury, all of it.
So he did have a brain injury.
Yeah, yes. A good mix.
Was that causing the hallucinations?
It was honestly the medicine. TBI had minor effects, but what the medicine was doing was just amplifying things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
For that reason, he was just like, no, doc, we have to take this down. What was their go-to? I understand it because they're thinking you're in pain, trying to ease the pain, ease recovery.
The effects weren't worth it.
No, not at all. Not for him then. He's like, I'm a new dad. I need my son to know that I'm present.
You have a 3 month.
We were at a hotel, my mom loves house, so we could be there with him. We were in the hotel. I'm having to wake up this crazy early hours, get this little baby together, put him in the stroller, get myself together, get us across the street, because we can't be in the hospital room with him. One night we fell asleep there, baby in my arms, and the nurse comes in. They're like, I'm not saying anything to you bad. You can't do it, but I understand. She saw I was exhausted. It's just a journey, man.
Even postpartum, how are you? How are you recharging, not going crazy yourself?
That's right. Part of what helped, honestly, and it's not cliche, is having a prayer life. Intercession in prayer reached its peak during this course of my life.
Okay.
Because while he's out there, I'm thinking if no one else, his mom's praying, so it's not a diss, that's my homegirl.
Yeah.
But as a wife, if no one else is doing it or if anyone's sleeping on this watch, I'm not going to sleep. It escalated my prayer life. The time I spent in worship with God, being more grateful for things I'd never been grateful for before.
If y'all hadn't got married when you did, then that question becomes, do I really want?
Is it necessary?
But now you're in covenant, is your person.
Yeah.
You have reproduced his seed.
Yes.
And now he's fighting for his life, and you have to fight with him.
Yeah.
Through power found in prayer.
Yeah.
I have heard it before, but the reality is hitting. You think physical, but often we don't think of the mental or emotional turmoil.
Person very calm, cool, and collected, very long suffering, but these initials came and wreaked havoc. They wanted to wreak havoc into his mind, into his spirit, and he's just so resolute and loves God enough that he wasn't willing to allow it to completely take over. I don't blame him because being in that place, God bless Walter Reed for the work that they do, and they continue doing places like it. You look around, and now I see why you have these veterans, World War I, II. It wasn't their fault. They were being tormented here. And, some maybe didn't have the support system, or maybe their support system left and was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I don't judge those people because it takes you places where you're like, wow, again, you don't know the capacity that you have to give, to be selfless, to lay yourself down. I didn't stop living. I was still looking cute. I made sure our baby looked good, made sure he looked presentable. Life went on. One thing I will say with him, if you ask him, he'll tell you, I made up my mind I would never treat him like any of the things that they were calling him. I never treated him as crippled, and I never treated him as someone with PTSD. I didn't treat him as someone that suffered TBI. I didn't ignore them, but I was determined to call the person I knew was still in there.
Because that person still in there is who we see today. To know that 19, 18, 17 years ago, this is something you've walked through. It's mind-boggling to
Yeah. That's why we're so happy. We're not trying to fake anything or rub anything in anyone's faces. We are just grateful to God because we could be sitting here telling a different story.
But God would still be good. Even with doing this podcast with Pastor Jonathan, the conversation we're having is really challenging even some of my beliefs in a good way.
Yeah.
Debunking how Western culture has created this success mentality. When you're successful, that's how you know you're serving the Lord and doing all these things.
That's when he's good.
Right. It's other times he's bad. The cornerstone of the Christian faith is being able to endure through whatever.
Yes.
Suffering, joy, whatever it is. It's our ability to have the fortitude and courage to keep going despite what's happening. The Bible talks about wars and rumors of wars. There will be famines. The Bible talks about everything we are seeing right now.
Definitely.
And to hear your story and to think about these conversations, it's convicting. My bank account isn't where I want it to be, but that's minor to who God is, and doesn't mean God isn't good. Even in the circumstances, sitting down with Ashley, her losing her sister in the beginning of her marriage, praying and believing God to heal, but God decided to heal her on the other side in eternity, doesn't speak less to the nature of God's goodness. It's hard for the finite mind to comprehend that level of goodness.
Doesn't make sense to us.
And then you hear your story and you're like, whoa, God's goodness is all over it. It's encouraging because faith comes by hearing. So now I hear this, and I hope that all you ladies who are listening to this story, that this encourages you to build your prayer life. This encourages you to go deeper in relationship with Christ, because it's not about the flowers and how they propose in the wedding venue and can he put you in a Bentley and put you in a penthouse? It's more about longevity, the ability to endure, and our character becoming more like Christ, who suffered, died on the cross, was beaten, broken, bruised for us to have life and to have life more abundantly. Everyone he called to be his disciples, minus one, John, was martyred.
Yeah. That's right. Think on that.
That shifts.
No rights to complain.
We live in a country that allows for religious freedom. We can publicly be Christian. We can talk publicly. We can make Christian content. We can model our businesses after the faith.
Not everybody can.
Only third world countries to some degree. You look at countries that don't believe in Jesus, that's different. You go to the eastern parts of the world and there's persecution, underground churches. True persecution. I don't think we as Americans have experienced persecution. And I tread lightly. I don't say like maybe we will. I don't know. I know God is coming back for a spotless and blameless bride. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord.
Yes.
I don't know if that looks like universal unity to the extent of we are more of us are believing more catastrophic destruction and it's going to take fire and all. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But I know God is good.
That's right.
And there is still life to live.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. We have hope.
We have hope, and his name is Jesus. Your testimony has me stirred. Any parting words you want to leave with the ladies? Or
for those contemplating marriage, don't be afraid. If you want to know how to have something be effective to the fullness of its ability and have longevity, go to the one that created it, that authored it, and that's him. Whether you believe him or not, read what he has to say about it, because he formulated it. It was a partnership. It's a dual thing, representing one, two parts coming one. Don't be scared. Even we as the church have sensationalized so many things, and it's going to be this prison, and you're going to die, you're going to lose yourself, and that was a fear of mine. My biggest cheerleader, and he gets on me till this day, like, man, Get out there and do, because he knows more than I do. He spent time praying about it, what God put me on this earth to do. So don't be afraid. It's not this, you're coming under somebody's leadership and they got their heel on your neck. Like, that's insanity. Debunk the myths, do your own research, choose right, choose God, and make it where you want. If you want it to be a joyous union, it can be.
Yes.
If you want it to be a living hell, it can be. Is that his design? No. Even if you're at the place where that's not for me right now, that's fine. Just take it easy. We got to give each other grace. We're still learning. We don't have everything perfect. There's good days, there's bad days, but that's my person. That's who I'm walking into eternity with. Let's be encouraged. There's been so much negativity, even surrounding marriages. Married people look down on single people. We were single too. Like, we weren't just born married. I was single. It's a gift, and we need to bless God for it. So I encourage, don't be scared. Trust him. Here, submit. Think trust, a deeper trust, because you're trusting the God in that person. It's not so much the person, it's the God in them. That's why they're your person, because God is in this person to serve everything you need, help with, assistance with, growth with, magnify, all that stuff. It's all good. So.
All of that. Now, she has a book on Amazon to help you with prayer. Just prayer.
Just pray.
I'll put the link in the show notes. Make sure you get that. And then you can connect with her on social media, right? No longer hiding. She has a word. The last 30 minutes, you just read us our rights in the way of your testimony. How beautiful. Well, guys, my name is Janae Carly. For those who are new here, my goal is to help you grow in life, faith, and business. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments. Until next time, holla.